Welcome to the Underground, the Steel City Underground, the black and gold standard for Pittsburgh Steelers coverage. Now, here's your host, Joe Kuzma and Brian E. Roach.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Steel City Underground podcast. My name is Joe Kuzma, and I'm with my colleague, cohort, and compadre, Mr. Brian E. Roach, on this Victory Monday as the Steelers. Well, I guess they're probably already on to the next game, but at least us fans, we are celebrating a 38-7 drubbing of the previously 4-1 Cleveland Browns. I mean, Brian, how you feeling today after this big victory?
I feel good. Na, 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 na. I knew that I would. Da, na, 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 na.
You know what? I had Christmas music in my brain this morning. You want to know why? Noel. The Steelers are 5-0. They have Noel. No losses.
Oh, yes, that's no losses.
How about that?
Yes, wait a minute.
Yes, I'm very clever, as the kids say.
What a punny guy you are.
We were both traveling yesterday for various reasons, and coming to you a little later than what we would usually like, and also some, lack of sleep, technical difficulties, a whole 9 yards. I think we're going to get this all in. I even still have my coffee here. I'm right-handed, so I don't know how that shows up on the video, but I got my Steelers mug with me today, and I'm going to try and get through this with some caffeine, my friend. Let's start with some. You got the Red Bull going. That's pretty good. It gives you wings. And hello to all of our supporters, viewers out there in YouTube land. You get to see some of this on video, but for those of you who aren't getting to see this, I got the cap today with the pink. My mother is a breast cancer survivor, early detection. So this is like, when you see this stuff here, it's not just some gimmick to just be part of, the trend of everyone else is doing. And actually, I don't really. The NFL stuff is ugly this year. I think it's like tie-dye Grateful Dead stuff. I'm not into it, but. The ones that have like almost the monochrome, like the logos that are on all black, and then it's almost like like a spectrum of color. It's not even a rainbow; it's a spectrum now. They have more colors than the rainbow, but for every cause, and it's like I'm okay with that. But the pink thing is the Susie Komen and everything like that. That's kind of like you with the March of Dimes and purple. March of Dimes purple, or am I thinking of the Alzheimer's thing?
Sadly, it is purple.
It is purple.
I've tried hard to convince them to change their color scheme to black and gold, but they don't listen to me.
Well, good luck with that. It was weird being at Heinz Field. I'm going to discuss that for just a minute. They're still filtering in some audio, fake crowd noise. You could hear it as a fan because you're quiet as a church mouse when the Steelers have the football, when the Browns have the football. And I think I heard Tony Romo in my cursory rewatching of this game. I caught some of the highlights and whatnot. And they said, it sounds like 66,000. It doesn't sound like 66,000, but it does get loud enough. There's some echoing. Some of the drunk fans that you would normally hear, I think the players could probably hear them now. And now that they have the mics positioned where the tarped off area is, probably the first 10 rows all the way around, they don't actually have some of this stuff on the field because of all the COVID precautions. I'm sure some of that stuff comes across on live video, or you got the censor, the 4-second delay or whatever CBS is doing. But 5,260 fans, Brian. 5,500 tickets available. Still not the full capacity for what was available for this game, but 500 more than last week with the Eagles coming into town. They had some spotters and whatnot, and they were pretty, what do you want to say, on top of all the fans to make sure masks were on and enforced at pretty much all times, except for like eating and drinking, which I did a little of both. And even the eating stuff, man, some of the stuff isn't open, or it's a limited menu because there aren't as many fans. The upper bowl isn't open. Just to give you an idea what the setup is, they have like checks on which seats can actually be, they could sit people in, or which ones have been cleaned or sanitized or whatever. They got these red checks on them, and you have like there's a seat gap from the aisle, and then there's no one until the other end of the aisle sitting in your same row, and then there's an empty row, 2 empty rows behind you and in front of you. So they had some people there, I think, to try and gauge how well this went and how well everything was enforced in order to hopefully have some more fans in attendance when they get the Bengals about a month from now. Now that the Steelers are going to go on the road for 3 straight games.
Yeah.
Should have had a bye for next week, which is going to be quite the game between unbeaten teams at the top of the AFC now, 2 undefeated teams. That would be the Titans, who screwed all this up to begin with. They could have used this bye. This was a war of attrition, as it is with AFC North teams. So the other thing here on video, as I get long-winded, for those who can't see it, wearing Devin Bush today because, thoughts and prayers and everything go out to him. I saw that in real time, Brian. He made this tremendous read on the play. Baker hadn't even completely wound up and released the ball yet, and he went straight across the field to make this tackle, and you could tell that, he seized up or something. It looked like something was like a pop, knowing that people stop on a dime like that as he did, and he's sprinting full speed. I'm like, oh, geez. Yeah, I'm hoping for something like a hamstring or a quad or something that's a tissue injury that could be rehabbed and he could come back, and not a knee. And the way he hopped off the field and you could see his foot hop up every 2-3 steps, that something was not right there. I'm like, yeah, having a knee injury and MCL on the other side of my knee personally 20 years ago, playing basketball in high school and whatnot. I know how that feels, and I was just like, man, this is not good. I had that sick Ryan Shazier feel, although Ryan Shazier was a much sicker feeling. I don't want to make the same comparison because he was motionless on the field. You can't make that same comparison, right? Yeah. But from a standpoint of knowing what it's like when you don't have that support in the middle of the field, and you have a young man who's the quarterback of the defense in his second year there, you feel terrible all the way around about how that's going to go, not only from going forward with the Steelers, but just to, his personal and professional growth as an NFL player and a key component of this defense. So, football's family, man. So we have to at least bring that up before, you get into some of the minuscule stuff, because you had a lot of smack talk from the various Browns fans, Browns entities, Kareem Hunt, and things of that nature. Compose yourselves, Steelers fans. You're now 36-7-1 since 1999 when the Browns came back, and they haven't won since October something or other, October 3rd, 2000. It was October 2003, the last time that the Browns won in Pittsburgh. That's the only victory they've had at Heinz Field since Heinz Field was opened. So, you can't ask for much more, and this was a pretty dominant performance by the Steelers. They held one of the top rushing attacks here to, where's it at? Rushing yards, 75 total rushing yards, and that's got to make you feel good, provided that these injuries that they had in this game, Mike Hilton with a shoulder now, obviously Devin Bush, they're going to be going up against Derrick Henry, and then the following week, obviously, the Ravens have a very these are the top running attacks in the NFL, and they got them all lined up in the gauntlet here. So you got to hope that they have the same success. But finally, the third down stuff, I think they silence all the critics. It's like, oh, they haven't faced a real team yet. Wait till they face the Browns offense here. Browns were 8% here, converting 1 of 12 on third down.
8%.
8. Not a typo. 8. Single digit there. Under 10. 0 for 3 on fourth down. Shut down completely. Steelers had the time of possession edge here with 34, a little over 34 minutes to the Browns, just under 26. A full 8 minutes. It's just a dominant all the way around. They got the Baker Mayfield 4 times. They forced some turnovers. So, any other quick observations? We're going to talk about some individual performances and also how the refs stink right out the gate here too.
They stink. They're terrible. I'm interested to hear about that. I'm surprised. Did you say that they weren't even at capacity the last 2 games?
Correct. They had like 4,700 something against the Eagles, and in 52, what did I say it was? It was here in the statistics. The official paid attendance number 5260.
Yeah, I mean, that's close, but I'm wondering if those tickets just went unsold. That's interesting to me. I would have assumed with the limited availability but maybe people are just thinking it's not worth the risk. It's easier to just sit at home and watch a game on TV as opposed to going out and being in public. I don't know.
I think some of it's the corporate ticket thing. The sellers, they weren't able to sell them and make a buck off of them. We were talking about the resellers. It's still like about 200 some tickets. It could also be there were tickets allotted for the teams,
right?
That went
that didn't get used. Yeah,
so that's possible.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that does moves forward. I thought that the game went. My general impressions, because I got to hear it more than I got to see it. But I've watched some of the replays. I watched the highlight films. I've gone back and looked at some of the game replay, and I thought the game went far better than we would have expected. Yeah. The defense played tremendously. Did they give up a couple mistakes? Sure, they did. But overall, you can't argue with, the 8% on third downs. You can't argue with the fact that they came up huge. Bud Dupree, oh my gosh, not to get into this right away, but good heavens, grown ass man, Bud Dupree. Jiminy Christmas. Trying to keep it family friendly, I want to say other things, but I won't. I'm telling you right now, they got to figure out a way to sign that guy. I don't want him going. I don't want him going at all. I've said that all along, but you got to keep him in the fold. But gosh, goodness heavens, between him and TJ, they're gonna harm some individuals.
Well, they did.
Well, I know they did, and they're going to continue to do so. Just very impressive. Overall, very impressive. The way that the defense responded. I thought they responded very well even after Devin Bush went down and continued. And I was very concerned that there was going to be a lot of, they're going to try and take advantage of maybe communications issues, of other things. But that's the thing that I think seemed to me to be much better, is they just communicated better, and they were in the right place, and their execution was really, really nice. It was interesting to watch from the offensive side. The mix that they had, I thought their play calling was nice. The execution again was good. I'm a little concerned about Pouncey with the foot and whether he's going to be ready for this next game. But good game overall. I mean, it really. What are you going to complain about? You beat the Browns. I mean, you want to say it's the same old because it's the Browns, but it isn't. To be fair, this is not the same old Browns team. I mean, this is a team that was hot, putting up over 30 points a game for the last 4 games, coming in, puffing out their chest, talking about all their nonsense. Oh, it's for Miles. This is that. The other thing. Yeah, shut up.
Well, I gotta interject here, and there was a chant that broke out in the stadium, and it was same old Cleveland after there's going to be a full start penalty we come up to here that was like on 4th down. And then it continued. That was sometime in the second half, and then it continued for every mistake. There was a fumble that was later on, too. I think it was forced by Stephon Tuitt. Maybe Cam Hayward. I'm forgetting which of those two. Those two had a monster game. That whole the front 4 there, and even with Tyson Alualu, the Browns got some of their success actually when they went into a base 3-4. There were some different adjustments here on defense, and I'm not just talking about when Robert Spillane came in and played the entire game for Devin Bush, and it's already been announced he's going to be the one. So Devin Bush, quarterback of the team, got the headset, the radio and the headset, if I hadn't mentioned it already. That's going to be Robert Spillane's job here, and we're going to see, if the standard's the standard, the next man up here. You got to hope for the best, but there's some other things they were doing. They were bringing Terrell Edmunds off the field and/or using Cam Sutton at the same time as kind of the deep safety guy.
Deep safety, yeah.
And they were bringing Minka up a lot. And Minka was just sinking there in the middle of the field a lot in this game. That's how he gets the first interception, but that's not how the game initially started here. And this is the reason why I said, even if you want to say, and we always talk about the referees here, the referees are inconsistent, not only from game to game, but within the same game. You have the Steelers lose the coin toss, the Browns kick off, and we are now at I had Joe Rutter's tweet here, and I got to see if I can find it again. It's been since Week 15 against the New England Patriots back in 2018, which would have been in November, I believe, or right around Thanksgiving time or thereafter. No, December. That would be December. December 2018, they haven't scored a touchdown, and you were thinking that they're going to get it here. 11 plays, 58 yards. They go after Terrence Mitchell right away, who myself and the professor were talking about in the secondary, just wasn't going to be able to handle all this. In fact, the first 3 plays, incomplete for Ebron, that was in coverage was Terrence Mitchell. Mitchell also gives up the 27-yard pass to James Washington on 3rd and 5. Then there was another incomplete attempt towards Washington. They went right after him again. And then you have James Conner runs the ball 3 times, 4 straight runs, because the 4th one's with Benny Snell. And this sets up the Steelers for 2nd and 6 from the Browns' 17-yard line. Ben goes for one of these plays we've seen in training camp, Brian. We've seen, or even preseason, but more or less training camp, when they're doing, the 7 shots and whatnot.
Yep.
James Washington could get up. And he couldn't get up because the back of his jersey was pulled and held by Denzel Ward. You get the sideline judges looking straight through it, probably can't see the back of number 13 there, can't see his nameplate, can't see when he comes down, he walks away, you could see half of his jersey's pulled up and you can't see his full number. So you know something, you got a sense that something happened there. And just no clues, and I don't know where anybody else was positioned on the field as the officials, but you got to figure from the 17-yard line, there had to be enough eyeballs that somebody could have seen this, because some of these flags come from yonder.
Yes.
And late, and there was nothing there. That would have been a TD if he doesn't hold him. Because he's got the big hands. The guy makes combat catches. There's no doubt about it. He's sure-handed as anyone. And then they went for Ebron right after that too, and that one just didn't connect, and they settle for a field goal here, and you're like, oh, well, great. The Browns get a feather in their cap, and it's only 3-0, and then where's Minka been? Oh, here he is. The Browns get the ball. It's 3rd and 3. Mayfield, they've been stuffed already. Kareem Hunt only got 2 yards. Mayfield scrambled on a play where he's flushed out and gets 5 yards. It's mostly contained. And he tries to, I think he's intending for a tight end. Yes, Harrison Bryant here. And Minka's just sits back in a zone there and doesn't move. And he goes the whole way. You get the whole Troy Polamalu vibe from this. It's like, this guy gets the ball, he's going to score. He's actually he scored more times with the Steelers in 18 games. I forget who tweeted this out. Than Le'Veon Bell scored rushing touchdowns for the Jets in 17 games. I love it. And he has the most turnovers of anybody, of any single defender in the NFL over the last, since he's joined the Steelers, I believe. So it is just phenomenal what he's able to do. So now you're looking at 10-0. You're thinking, hey, can this be a rout? Browns go 3 and out. A huge sack here by Bud Dupree, as you were mentioning just a moment ago. He gets there. There may have been the one here. There's one of these ones where Stephon Tuitt's almost on the ground, and he almost gets a hand on him, and then Dupree finally gets him and finishes off the job. There's another spot in this game where Mike Tomlin was absolutely livid, and it was because there was a pass, and it wasn't he wanted maybe intentional grounding. They were saying Odell Beckham's in the area, and we'll find this somewhere in the plays. I'm trying to remember where this might have been.
Is that the one where Cam hammered him?
He got hammered quite a few times, but this wasn't a hammer. This should have been a stopped play. They had two different defenders. I believe it was Dupree again and Tuitt again. I think one was on the ground and one had him there. And if anybody puts any extra force here, they're going to throw the hanky. And Tomlin was going crazy because this went you could have went 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, maybe even 3 Mississippi before he gets rid of the ball. And they count this as an incomplete pass versus
a sack.
Whistling it dead for a sack. Yeah, it was complete. It was crap. So you have this no pass interference. Let me see. You got a 3 and out here. Steelers end up going 3 and out too. Ben holds onto the ball too long on a 3rd and 9. So it's still 10-0. You're like, oh man, can you let this Browns team back in? You really don't want to. There's a Baker Mayfield sack here on second down and 3 with about 3.5 minutes left in the first quarter. split sack between Devin Bush and Stephon Tuitt. They were definitely having trouble containing Tuitt and Hayward many times through the game. We even got a holding call with T.J. Watt finally. Got tackled, but there was a couple other plays like this that were still let go in this game that were bad. Guys that were pulled, arm pulled behind their back and stuff like that, where they're just not calling this stuff, and it's kind of nerve wracking. So
I'll tell you, I read this in one of I think it was the Steelers timeline blog that Labriola does, what went right, what went wrong kind of thing, and he used this phrase: "It was another keep the game close penalty," and I'm convinced that this is some edict coming down that says don't let the games turn into blowouts. In other words, start calling ridiculous penalties if you think it's going to get out of hand. Because I don't think we've gotten to it yet, but there's another one coming up that I think is absolutely another example of that. But the refs, it almost feels like a free-for-all, and I'm okay with that again, as long as they're consistent. Be consistent in what you're doing, and there's a lack. I got into an argument. I got to tell you this little story. It's not that it's going to be the greatest story in the world, but I got into an argument with my brother. My grandfather, who used to work for the Ohio State University, who played on the Ohio State football team, back in the day. My grandfather always said, you should never criticize the refs because it's the hardest job in the world. And I used to agree with that. So my brother, I said something about the refs, they stink. And he said, oh, you can't criticize the refs. And I said, hey, yeah, be quiet, Grandpa. And I said, the difference is, it used to be a point where at least it was a consistent level of issue. You could deal with it because, okay, you're going to get this wrong, but you seem to consistently get it wrong. Or you're going to call it this way and we get it, and that's fine.
Yeah, you get it the same way. Yeah,
it's the same way. But it's so off the wall, so inconsistent, so demonstratively, ridiculously bad at times that I can no longer just say, oh, it's the toughest job in the world. It may be the toughest job in the world. We need to get some better people doing it because they stink.
Well, and even so, a lot of times you have instant replay, but now it almost seems like it's out of spite that, the referees don't have to worry about the pass interference, either side of it, offensive or defensive, being challenged. And right. I don't think they like and I wouldn't like it either. Let me be honest. With officiating background, I know it's another sport. Anyone who hasn't heard before, 24 years of officiating in soccer myself at various levels, pro and collegiate as well. So I've been around professional collegiate athletes, high-level coaches, and things of that nature, be it in a different sport. You have the same problems where you may have not everybody's going to call it the same way. Everybody has like their ideas. They have their style. They know when I show up at the field, or you get one of these guys like John Hussey, his crew tends to do this. A lot of these guys, they stay together for the season. You might see them more than once, which it's kind of rare, but you might, because there just isn't enough crews and enough officials. And the reason for that too is if you keep adding too many, then it waters down the pool of talent, if you want to call it that, or guys that are experienced to make some of these calls. But as you said, there seems to be an edict when there's just no holding calls through 5 games, 6 weeks of the NFL. You see some of the crazy stuff that goes on in some of these other games. Tony Corrente, every game he's had, they haven't had him yet. I'm going to place bets. He's on one of these next 2 games. It's going to be the Titans or the Ravens. It's going to be awful. The guy has to put on his reading glasses, and that's a bad look, too, when he needs, like, the sighters or whatever you call them, to see the instant replay stuff. So the one thing we're just really asking for is and it's tough, it's like consistent within the game. Consistent on major maybe points of emphasis, like the way catches are called, or especially if some of those things come down to replay, would be nice from game to game. But I can understand at least the human aspect of making errors, not being able to see the James Washington penalty. But then the other problem with that is that you have some calls later on in this game that can be just as questionable, maybe ticky-tack. In particular, we'll get to the one with Eric Ebron later on.
Oh, yeah.
So, but you know what? We're here, and this is that was the first quarter of this game, and the Steelers could have been up even bigger. You get into the second quarter now, and let me see. Browns end up punting. This is where we had the false start on Jedrick Wills, the rookie. And what ends up happening here is they come out for a 4th and 4 from the Steelers 37, so you don't necessarily want to punt right there. And in the open end of the stadium, where I was making fun of Doug Peterson last week for having Jake Elliott try that 57-yard field goal, it's like, yeah, you want Cody Parkey kick it from there? I don't think so, Mr. Double Doink. So,
yeah.
And he doinked one and made it the week before, so it was like, what are the bets of him missing one? Well, he only got one opportunity the whole game, as it turns out, but I'm not sure if they were actually going to run a play or not, but Wills, he looked like one of those horses when they see like a snake, and he jumped so bad off of that line. He was seeing the ghosts for sure when you're talking about everybody, like Cam Hayward, Dupree, they were all over
the
them.
Whole line, yeah.
Everybody was all over him, and the Steelers end up it's a 4th and 9 now, and the Browns have to come out and punt. They start from their own 12. You get some breathing room from James Conner on a big 14-yard run. You get Juju, who was quiet in this game, but I think Juju still did what he needed to. I know Zach was talking a little bit about this game, and I know there's some things we can and can't discuss, or he can't discuss, I should say, in regards to Pro Football Focus and things of that nature. But he just spoke of at length reviewing the game film, because just a reminder, I was there in the stands, and this is just my own observation, but I did see Chase Claypool was out there an awful lot, and it just wasn't the Deontay Johnson injury that's necessitated this. They have incorporated specific plays to utilize his talents, his speed, his ability, and aggressiveness on the field, and it really shows. And I think I have him in fantasy, so I was trying to root for him to score another 4 touchdowns this week, but it just didn't turn out that way. But he's out there blocking, and we were talking about, like, some people had typecast him as to whether or not he could be a tight end in the NFL too. So they have him blocking. You know, Juju's a fantastic, aggressive guy and a blocker too. But there was one instance where Juju's like, wait, not me. Just one wide receiver out there, and it was Chase Claypool. And I think part of that too is that they know they got to look for end arounds, little sneaky things with Claypool, or even the threat that he goes down the field. It is more the threat of what he can do versus what Juju's going to do and what's been on film. I don't know that it's necessarily going to always be the case there, but if you throw Juju out there, maybe you're not anticipating you're going to put this guy in motion and he might get the ball, for example, or something like that. So the Steelers, they did that. I think it was one of the 4th down plays. There was actually another play where they brought in Derek Watt, and that may have been the 4th down play I'm talking about, where it was an odd collection of guys on the field. Derek Watt and Jalen Samuels also on the field at the same time too. I'm going to have to go back and watch and see where that was, but there was a face mask penalty on Juju, who, like we said, he didn't have like a huge game here. Receiving wise, it was 2 catches for 6 yards, but his presence was still felt, and obviously that play there where they try to get him involved, 15-yard penalty, marches the Steelers down the field. They end up Juju gets his other pass for 5 yards here, and then he's gone the rest of the day as far as everything else. Eric Ebron involved, James Washington heavily involved. Chase Claypool has the big 36-yard play here. James Conner dots the I, crosses the T's, dots the lowercase J's on this drive with a 3-yard finish, and now you're looking at 17-0. You're feeling pretty good, but you're still not feeling great. And let's rewind. The Philadelphia Eagles, everybody was saying, oh, this crappy Eagles team, they came back on the Steelers, and the Steelers, they're really not as good. What happened yesterday? I want all the users to jump in the comments and see what the Eagles did with the Ravens there and then get back at us, okay? So, because the Eagles did the same thing. The Ravens had a huge lead, and the Eagles gave them a scare. And if they were able to run, they ran an RPO for a 2-point conversion that was probably ill-advised. It's probably as bad as handing off the Marshawn Lynch, or not handing off the Marshawn Lynch when you have it on the goal line in the Super Bowl if you're Pete Carroll and the Seahawks. But anyways, Browns get the ball back here. And this is one of the holding penalties on Conklin here for 10 yards. And it's a 2nd and 20. And Browns get a little bit of this back, 3rd and 12, and then Baker Mayfield passes deep, and somebody's going to get it for sure because this wasn't the best of passes, and Cam Sutton was right there and brings it up. So Cam Sutton's another guy. His versatility, and I got to wonder if they're not going to do like the Carnell Lake went over from safety to corner when Rod Woodson got hurt ages ago. But I'm getting some vibe there that this guy could be playing safety. They might start playing Terrell Edmonds a little more shallow. Terrell Edmonds and he had a couple fantastic tackles in this game. Good coverage on the tight ends because the Browns have oodles of them. And it gives me a lot of hope for what we might see when they do end up facing the Ravens and whatnot. But
couple weeks.
Yep. Myles Garrett gets tagged with the offside penalty here to start the next drive. Steelers end up, this is not the longest field. They started right at the 50. They take the short field. Roethlisberger with the pump fake of the century. You don't see this on TV, Brian. I'm waiting for the All-22 film.
Oh, it's awesome.
So Ben has the ball. He looks at Washington. So if you visualize this, folks, you're looking up the field. You're looking at the end zone in front of you. You look at James Washington to your right, going up almost the sideline up to, the corner route there. And you look, and you're holding the ball, and then Ben looks his way, pumps it, pump fakes it, almost sells like he's looking the other way too. Two defenders, double coverage here. There was guys bracketed on James Washington. Both shook their boots. It looked like something like if it were basketball, like Allen Iverson just shaking someone on one of those crazy dribbles that he used to be able to do. The guy had hands like nothing else, handles like nothing else. So 24-0 now, second quarter. You're like, please don't let them get back into this game. This is where we have the illegal contact with Joe Hayden. I couldn't judge where it was with it, if it was beyond the 5 yards or whatever. Hayden gets kind of a hand on him, but so does Beckham. These guys are almost like a hand fight, and it's like another thing where I could see why they called it, but you just let that James Washington deal go. It's 24-0. You're calling this now. And this is the thing. You're bailing out guys who are getting beat. This is a turnover, picked off, right at the goal line by Joe Hayden. The Browns are losing the ball again. No chance to score. The two-star players look like total goofs here with Beckham and Mayfield, because Mayfield throws the ball too short. Where the ball goes is not representative of even where Beckham ended up going. Really, right. The contact did nothing. It was underthrown, and they throw the flag. And they're saying they're not supposed to be throwing flags if it doesn't affect the outcome of the play. But that wasn't the outcome. Wasn't because there was any contact with Beckham and their hand fighting or whatever else there. I could accept this penalty. I don't like to accept it. They've been tagging Joe Hayden and on the other side, Ebron. It just seems like they're watching video on only these guys and what they do. But this leads to the Browns getting their only touchdown of the game. It should have been a shutout.
Yes, it should have been. I feel like I've gotten to the point of exasperation, and it's only 5 games into the season, 6 weeks into the season, where I'm just. If I had my bad call brick in my hand, it would be shredded. If I had, the ref stink gif, it doesn't work anymore because it's too tired to work. Whatever it is, I just feel like I'm at the point where I'm so fed up with them and the inconsistencies of what they're doing that, and I'm not a conspiracy theory guy, but that I am starting to wonder, is this some weird edict from the NFL that says, You gotta call nothing. You gotta just try and keep it close. If that's the case, they blew it yesterday too because they didn't keep it close, even though they tried. But the Steelers might have put up 50 on them. It's so aggravating.
I was looking at that 51.5 line, and I was thinking the Steelers were going to contribute to like 40 something of it. And
yeah,
obviously this helps for the NFL, the National Fixed League or whatever, when you're talking about Vegas and bookies and, online casinos and whatever, the sports books, wherever you can play. And you've heard us all talk about those before. But you know what? The Steelers didn't do a whole lot here with after this. Actually, they had a 3-and-out. And now you're starting to say, "Oh man, don't let this team back in this." It's 24-7, and they get the ball to start the second half. But fortunately, the defense kind of shuts them down. They had all their timeouts with 33 seconds left, or did they use one? They used one on the previous drive, so they still had 2 left. The Browns did,
right.
And wisely they used it because it was after a sack on Ben by Myles Garrett, who still got his stats, but he was largely ineffective. And those sacks weren't just because of him. It was because of other things in the defense, guys not getting open. There was a play with Ben where Ben scrambled. It looked like totally busted. I think it was Anthony McFarland. He looked for him in the backfield. There was nobody to hand off to.
He had to run. Yeah.
And he had to run, and it was just like, he looked a little miffed. He was like, oh, man, I don't like to do that.
And Anthony McFarland came right off the field after that play for a little while.
Yeah, he did, unfortunately. So you start the second half, the third quarter. Kareem Hunt, 2-yard run, stuffed basically at the line. Baker Mayfield sacked by Bud Dupree for a loss of 10. Yeah, I brought the hammer on that one. And there was one where there were a few more quarterback hits in this game too. Let's see how many that they actually tallied. The Steelers got to him a lot. Tuitt got to him twice. Dupree got to him twice here. So that's 4. And then we have another 3. So there were 7 quarterback hits in total. Hayward, Devin Bush, and Chris Wormley were among the others. You had Dupree leading with 2 sacks. Cam Sutton had a sack, and then a half sack credited each to Devin Bush and Tuitt. And man, having Tuitt there is like, it's such a huge deal. You got to hope that the guys could stay as healthy as possible. And I think it's a freak injury with somebody like Bush and what happened. But as we go through the rest of this third quarter, Pouncey gets tagged with a holding call on a good James Conner run, and rightfully so. But this is where this ends on 3rd and 13 with the ticky-tack Eric Ebron offensive pass interference, where he kind of has his hand just kind of... These guys are feeling people out. It's like a hand check. You know what I mean? The basketball hand check. It's not a foul. He just has his hand there. I don't think he's even really creating space. I don't think he really pushes off. But these defenders are so bad. It's like Chase Claypool from the week before, Brian, where he beats the guy so bad. It makes him look so silly that the referee thinks something happened and then somebody's cheating. It was just such a lopsided matchup there, and it's the same thing that ends up happening here with Ebron, who would have had 18 yards. He would have gained 5 extra, and instead now it's 3rd and 23. They try like a little short pass just to Claypool. There wasn't anything that they weren't going deep. I think they got a little conservative, but overall, I think the offense, as we continue to go through this, anyone who's talking about Randy Fichtner, they either weren't putting things, they've installed things, obviously. They had a lot of creativity in certain spots. We've even seen the 4th down plays. We saw a quarterback sneak as well in this game by Big Ben, which he never gets under center, but it's like the way he quick snaps, it sells it. He drives me crazy that he waits till 4, 3, 2. Like everybody knows now, we could pretty much just jump at the line of scrimmage here and get after the quarterback. So it kind of drives me crazy. But Steelers punt. Browns end up going 3 and out again, and this was the nice call or the nice play by Jarvis Landry. 4th and 1. Kareem Hunt loses a yard. Tackled by Cam Hayward and T.J. Watt on a 4th and 1 at the Cleveland 29. At this point, they were down, they were desperate, and they had to try something. 24-7. That didn't end up working out. The Steelers bring in some of their bigs on the offense. Gerald Hawkins comes in several times as the tackle eligible, and they run the ball. Running the ball. It was James Conner. What here? We got 1, 2, 3, 4 times with Conner, 2 times with Snell. Ben wants himself on the sneak, and then Chase Claypool comes around the corner like a madman. And it makes me a happy man. He's like the only fantasy guy I got going because all of my top 3 of my 4 picks have been unavailable. It's been ridiculous, but I'm not going to get into my fantasy, or as Dale Lawley said, my real fantasy team, because he was talking about regular fantasy, the year long versus the, DraftKings and stuff like that, where I'm absolutely miserable and donating money as well. So anyways, what was it? 8 straight runs here, 7 straight runs. And then Claypool's with 3-yard touchdown here. That was the 8th. They didn't throw the ball at all on this drive, protected it, go up 31-7, 8 plays, 28 yards, but 5 minutes chewed on the clock by doing so. Absolutely possession football here. Then we get Case Keenum for the rest of this game. Before Odell Beckham, I think, takes his shoes off and throws his temper tantrum and doesn't return to the game either. But you have Case Keenum. Hey, they get 13 yards here, but then they're essentially right after this another 3 and out. The Steelers come right back down the field again, run the ball, run the ball even with Chase Claypool. So you have 2 Connor runs, a Claypool run, 3 Benny Snell runs. Anthony McFarland comes in and runs. Then Ben throws for 23 yards to Chase Claypool, who tries his darnest to get into the end zone once again. The guy is tenacious. But Gerald Hawkins comes in, the bigs come in, and Benny Snell vultures a James Conner touchdown for most of us who have Conner in fantasy. 38-7. Chris Boswell makes all of his extra points. And you don't have much more that ends up happening here because you have another Cleveland Browns, basically almost a 3-and-out. They run 5 plays. They go to 4th and 1. Dearness Johnson gets stuffed for 2 yards again on this time by Vince Williams, Tyson Alualu. Not much of anything getting generated here. The Steelers then bring out Mason Rudolph to close out this game with 6 minutes left. This is really the only real drive that they have. But they do run a few plays, but they ended up with a Matt Filer holding penalty that cost Anthony McFarland a nice 9-yard run here. They try one little short pass to McFarland from Rudolph for 6 yards, and then Colquitt comes out the punt on 4th and 15 from the Pittsburgh 44. And we approach 3 minutes or so left. You get down to the 2-minute warning, and the Browns end up punting. 4th and 2 from their own 20. They knew the game was pretty much over. Steelers, Mason Rudolph out there for the victory formation this time, ends up taking in 3 knees. Final score, 38-7. We do have some concerns with the injuries, but I think we're going to talk about that more as the week progresses, Brian. I'm just really, I am concerned with the bye. I'm concerned with the bye, but the way the Steelers handled this game, if they would have came out and played the way they played and the Eagles ended up coming, or the Browns came back such as the Eagles did, you may have more cause for concern. But as we said, good teams find ways to win games. This was a statement game in the conference, in the league, in the division. Steelers on top. This may be the way they have to go. They're going to have to make sure they got to pick up. My belief, they got to pick up 4 wins at least in the AFC North to be a postseason contender. But you have an extra postseason spot. There's very good possibility that you see 3 AFC North teams in the playoffs with that, given that extra spot as well. So you're going to have, in theory, all but one division should send 2 apiece, but it could be a little lopsided too. We see like the South is pretty crappy. The West is, the East is pretty bad. The East could be Buffalo. You could see whether New England does something, but New England, they get an L there. In Cleveland or in Pittsburgh. No L. So that'll be on my brain here. I don't know about some final thoughts with this game. Ben Roethlisberger, again, 100.9 quarterback rating. He only threw 22 passes, 162 yards. I thought he was big in this game. I just thought he might be a little bit bigger, but he was on track. 63.6% of his passes complete. Baker Mayfield threw the 2 picks, 54.9. He got rattled quite a bit. Case Keenum, also not too good, 62.9. Those guys were 55.6 and 50 on the money as far as their completion percentage. And, of course, Mayfield brought down the 4 times in the game. So, they're going to deal. Ryan Tannehill's not much as a mobile quarterback, but as far as the way this all came down, you didn't have any guys with 100-yard games, rushing, receiving, or otherwise. It was a total team effort. Even special teams, I'm going to say, give my hats off to as well. And you know what? I'm gonna take the win. And as I said, there's some of the Browns people that were talking trash in that. If you get into that sort of thing, just know it could return because you got one team that came in with some injuries. I'm not going to say that they were at a complete disadvantage because I don't feel that the Cleveland secondary particularly is all that strong. Their offensive line and maybe their running game could have been stronger if they were at full force. But then again, the Steelers didn't have David DeCastro and Deontay Johnson too. So anything can happen as this season continues to go. But again, 38-7 didn't hit the over like I thought there. I thought there might be a little more fireworks, but at the same time, you know what? I'm happy about it.
Absolutely. Let me throw my Cam Hayward as a grown-ass man out there because, damn it, he deserves it just for the one hit on Baker Mayfield, even though it didn't result in a sack. It did result in him going, ouch, I'm hurt. I cannot tell you how impressed I continue to be with Chase Claypool. I agree with something Tony Romo said, which is they got to find more ways to get the ball into his hands. The guy is a playmaker. He's a difference maker. I just continue to be impressed with how he contributes. As far as this game goes, the Steelers are finding good ways to win, and this was, I like what Mike Tomlin said. He said that we don't look at things as a statement. We'll let you guys make the statement, so we're making that statement. That this is a game that I think clearly dictates and says that the Steelers are a team to at least contend with. I'm still kind of looking towards an AFC North championship. I know that the Ravens are a good team, but at the same time, we got a half game lead. This is these next 3 games, which I'm sure we'll talk about as we get to the post or the pregame. These next 3 games, we're really going to see the mettle of this team, especially considering the loss of Devin Bush. We're really going to see the mettle of this team because all 3 games are on the road. All 3 games, okay, the first 2 games are against very high-quality opponents, and then there's the Cowboys and Andy Dalton. Andy Dalton, don't hit me anymore, please, Andy Dalton. So, but it's on the road. It's in Dallas. It's not a throwaway game. We will see. We will see what they come back with. I think that there is certainly the possibility that they come back, if not still in first place, tied for first place, if they can navigate these waters. These are all games I believe they can win, every single one of them. It just will, especially if they continue to do the things that they're doing right now. This is a good team, a very good team, and can continue to progress that way.
Yeah, the worst part of this is not having the bye. The Ravens getting their game moved and having a bye before they face us. So not only are they going to be possibly limping into Nashville on Sunday, they could even be really limping into Baltimore. I expect the Titans game to be just as physical, but that's, the AFC North football thing still holds true, and the Steelers still have some weak teams on the schedule, but so does everyone, because everybody's playing the NFC least here. On their schedule as far as the AFC North teams. So you can't necessarily count on every one of these games. It's always been that way, that every game is big, but you look at what the Ravens did with their record last year, and you may not expect them to lose very many games. So the Steelers have to have that same focus and be on their A game. And Tennessee has squeaked out quite a few close wins here, and we'll be talking about that in an upcoming show. So, folks, again, our apologies for getting this out to you a little later than we would have liked, but hopefully you had enough time to bask in the glory that is Victory Monday, as we are. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of, and I'll really be tooting my horn if they win the next 2 in Tennessee and Baltimore. Then I'll really be tooting my horn. But right now, I'm just gonna pump the brakes. But yeah, if they go undefeated, you go into a certain territory there of it's tough to catch teams. For teams to not make the postseason, to miss the postseason, you amass that type of record, especially undefeated early on. And of course, this was 78, 79. It was one of the Super Bowl teams. I had the exact stat. One was 4-1, the other was 5-0. So that just, it's some things to consider, but don't count your chickens before they hatch just yet. You still don't know what's going to end up happening with this season. Just feel good on this Monday, and then you know what? Everything gets reset tomorrow, and you got to look ahead at the Titans. But Brian, thanks for joining me once again, my friend, and hope to do this again later this week, or we may have a surprise. I think it's going to be a surprise even for you, so we're going to figure out what's going on. It may even be, I'll let you know. I'll let you know off air. I can't let the cat out of the bag just yet.
Okay.
But we'll see what ends up going on in the late week show. And we'll see if I end up going down to Tennessee. I've been considering it. So anyways, thanks for joining me once again, my good buddy, good friend, good pal. And we'll look forward to doing this again soon.
Absolutely. It's always a pleasure. You know that. I'm glad I was able to get back for the post game, and salute to the professor for doing an excellent job on the pregame with you. I'm glad he was able to join again. It was nice to see his smiling cherubic face. Yes, cherubic. He looks like he's 8.
Well, he had no memory of the Browns being any good, so I mean that's
there you go. See, it could be
a young guy. So.
He is a young guy, and he's a smart guy, and I'm glad he was able to contribute. We missed talking to him and seeing him around. So, but happy that he's following his dream. So I'm glad.
Absolutely. And he chopped off all his hair. So, well, until next time, folks, my name's Joe. His name's Brian. And as always, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And we encourage everyone out there to be safe, be good, and we'll catch you later.
We would like to thank you for listening and remind our listeners to follow us on social media and our website, www.steelcityunderground.com.